Those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all Nerds International. With the hyphen.
Alright, YouTube, it's Mr. Mean coming at you from sunny Beaumont, Texas. This is a long overdue video. Taking a break from the RPG a day videos due to Mr. Thomas Allison's request of where's the Star Trek video, you nerd. And he capitalized nerd, I might add. So I take that as an affront, and I shall not be intimidated, and I shall sally forth and answer. And here's your answer. Star Trek Adventures, Modiphius. This is the PDF. The book is not out yet. It'll be out, I think, end of summer, August, October. I'm not exactly sure. So let's start off with, pardon my French, this game is fucking awesome. Okay, we're just going to go straight there. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I'm a Star Wars fan. I grew up with Star Trek. I grew up with Star Wars. There's always that rivalry, and I say, why not love both? These are my reading glasses. I got contacts on today, so I apologize if I look extra nerdy. But I like both. And I was going to run this for our Wednesday night crew. Ran into a couple snags. One half of my crew, their car broke down and they can't make the game, so that would leave only 2 other people. And this is a game that you really need 4 to 5 players. You can run it with less, but optimal 4 to 5 or 6. Even you could get away with 6 easily with this game. But let's get into the nuts and bolts of this. First and foremost, Modiphius, as always, with their 2D20 system, have knocked it out of the park. So if you play Conan or you play Infinity, which is ending its Kickstarter, and the PDF is out for that book, and it weighs in at a whopping 528 pages, I believe, and none of it's wasted. But this is not a review for Infinity. That'll be coming soon. And then, of course, if you play like Conan or Infinity, like I said, or my all-time favorite, Mutant Chronicles, you already know the base mechanic. You know the 2D20 mechanic. It's not a difficult engine to learn. It is fast becoming my favorite game system. I'm a tried and true Savage Worlds fan for the triple Fs, fast, fun, and furious. And I think this is getting real close to it. I mean, God, it's an easy system to run, and it's fun, and it is fast, and it doesn't take a whole lot to dive right into it. The base dice mechanic is easy to explain. People get, I mean, I've run a couple demos now. I'm running a demo on August 19th at Etten Games for Conan. If you're going to be in the humble Houston area, drop into Etten Games, sign up for my game on meetups. I'm running an official demo. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. So it's a super easy game to run at conventions and demos and store demos, and it's just fun. I can't wait to get a crew going for this. I'm waiting for my hardback book because the way I bought the PDF as soon as I could get it, which was awesome. The downside is I don't know if it's not the layout. How do I put this? The contrast in which they published this in PDF, Adobe or Foxit, whatever your PDF reader of choice is. When I printed it on my printer at work, and I've printed the Conan book, and it came out just fine. But this one, it's barely legible. And I don't know if it's because they went with the LCARS theme, which is the standard Star Trek theme. I mean, and you can see that's kind of hard to read, especially on these old eyes. And the whole book is like that. That's my only complaint, and the only reason I'm not running it right now is I can't read it. I mean, even I have to strain too hard with my eyes to read it. And I mean, the font's not terribly small, but a lot of the pages are just like really faint because they used color. Now, I'm sure in the color full version of the game, it's going to look amazing. I have no doubt. I've already seen a couple images of it. Lloyd from Modiphius posted, I guess they got a preprint production copy, and it looked phenomenal. I mean, so I can't wait for the game. What makes this so unique and so cool is they got the rights from CBS. CBS now holds the copyright to Star Trek, and they got the rights to produce this. I mean, they went official, they went all out. Just like years ago, Last Unicorn Games and Decipher, they went to Paramount and they got the rights. Well, now CBS, I think Paramount bought CBS or vice versa, and so now CBS holds the copyright to the material. And so Modiphius, I mean, I don't know how Chris is the owner of Modiphius. I don't know how he's getting all these IPs, but man, keep doing it, brother. You're doing a fantastic job. And so the hardback book will be out later on this year, and I mean, it's phenomenal. Just like all of their games, they have a mechanic in here which they call threat or heat or dark synergy, depending on the game you're playing. In this game, I think they just call it threat. So you need tokens of some kind. And so me being the creative GM that I am, I went out and made some tokens. I went and scoured the web. I mean, and I made let me get the book out of the way here. I printed off a bunch of these. You can see I got a whole bunch in there. And I did another video on this when I first found out I was getting the game. And showed you how to make these. So go back and reference that video. If I remember, I'll try to put a link in the notes. But you have your alert here, and all I did was go to the web and I found images. I just went into Google and I typed up red alert from Star Trek, and I came up, and then the Federation logo, and then these are just simple bottle cap stickers that you can buy off of eBay, Etsy, Amazon. I mean, it's like $8 for like 100 of them, and they're tacky on one side. And so all I did was get a 1-inch hole punch, and I cut them out, and I just put them on there. So that's all there is to it. So these work great for threat tokens and the hero points for the players. The hero points for the players are the Federation tokens, and of course the threat tokens are the red alerts. So I made a bunch of those. I made like 20 red alerts, and I made like, I think 10 or so hero points, because I think each player gets 3, if I remember correctly. But while I can't run the game just yet because I don't like running from a computer or a tablet, which some people do, I can't do it. I've been reading the book a little bit. I really want to get a game group together and play it, but my initial reading is phenomenal. One of the super cool things that Modiphius has done with this, aside from having some of the writers from Star Trek help writing this book, and getting the Elcar's theme and using it throughout the book. So, I mean, you crack this open and the techno-babble's all in there, the phase converter, and the lithium crystals, and you name it, it's all in here, which is really cool. But one of the neat things they do, because you're going to be on a starship, going boldly going where no one has gone before, you're going to have a crew, and they address in this, because the player characters are going to be all command crew. They're going to be, either gold, red, or I think it's brown or beige or whatever. And they're going to be the different aspects of the crew. So you're going to have a captain, and you may have an XO if one of the players wants. You will have a chief of engineering, chief of security, operations manager, all that stuff. So what they do is, at any given time in the game, you have relevant NPCs that you as a player can take over. So if you're the chief of security and you send a boarding crew over to a freighter, or Cardassian or Ferengi freighter, and you need to check it or whatever, you as the chief of security don't have to go do that. You can stay on the ship on the bridge and lock phasers on and all that stuff, and you send over your security team. Well, you can automatically, they have pre-generated stats, basic stats for these characters. So as a player character, you don't have to sit there while the GM narrates it. There's nothing wrong with the GM narrating. I'm getting ready to run my first session of Uncharted Worlds, which is a sci-fi game based on the Apocalypse engine. I'm running it this Saturday for my friends, my Saturday group. totally excited because that is a primarily narration type game. You do roll dice in it, very, very low dice rolling. It's mostly about the narrative and getting the players involved in the fiction. So there's nothing wrong with that. But this game addresses that in the aspect of saying, no, you don't just sit on the bridge and tell your people what to do. You can take control of one of those major NPCs and go down there and be a part of the action. So say the captain goes, it happened on Star Trek how many times? Captain Kirk or Picard or Janeway beamed over, to the other vessel, and then they got into a shitload of trouble. Well, maybe the captain says, security officer Jane, you've got the bridge. So now you're sitting there going, well, crap, I'm security officer Jane, I can't go over there and play. But you can, because what you do is you take control of one of the NPCs on the security crew and you go over there. Now, you can't tell the captain what to do because you have to follow a chain of command, and they do a very good job of explaining that in here and tell you the links and what your NPCs can and can't do. But, if it devolves or escalates into combat, you've got a viable character that you're sitting there and you can play with. They introduce, and they've had them in their other games under various different names, but they call them talents here, and those talents give you options. Mutant Chronicles had them; they were talents as well, and you could get more dice, or you could get abilities. You could get re-rolls on D20s and stuff like that. And then the focuses, what they do is, in previous games, you were able to get a number of focuses based on whatever your primary career is. They kind of do that here, but the focuses are a little more broad. And if you can make that focus fit into what you're trying to do logically, and the GM approves of it, you get the bonus of having a focus. And in the 2D20 system, a focus is, it can be anything from a 5 or less, and you roll a D20. If you roll a 4, and that's within your focus range, that's an extra success. Because, one of the things that confuses, or can be confusing with the D20 game, 2D20 game, is I set the difficulty of a D3. And you go, well, I'm only rolling 2D20. The game's called 2D20. How do I get a third 20? Well, you can purchase a D20 with threat. You can tell the GM, I'm going to give you a point of threat. Threat is what the GM uses to activate powers and abilities and manipulate the story on his end, and he uses threat. And that gives the player a D20. And so they automatically get a 20, and they set it to a 1. They get an extra D20 to roll. They have certain talent that will allow them to get an extra success just by purchasing it. And there'll be quantifiers on that and how and when and why they can do it. And what's cool about it is that you can, in some games, I think in Conan, you can get up to an extra 5D20. I think Infinity is a 5D20. Mutant Chronicles, I think, is 4. It may be 5 as well. It's been a while since I've run MC. But it is my all-time favorite RPG. I love that world. But the 2D20 system is fast becoming one of my favorite systems. I really, really like the mechanics. It allows you to be descriptive. It allows you to get those, major successes. In my Conan demo game, I actually had a player roll 3 crits, which was awesome. Because they bought a D20. They had a talent that allowed them to get an extra D20. They spent the equivalent of a hero point. They spent a point, and it automatically became a 1 on a D20. So there's a success right there. Then they rolled 2D20, and they got under their focus. So they actually got 5 successes, which was amazing, because each focus that you roll equal to or less than on a D20 counts as 2 successes, like rolling a natural 1. The flip side is true of rolling 20s. I had another player roll 2 20s, which that's really bad. That's a critical failure. But anyway, back to Star Trek. Everything is in here that you need. They have a life path generator like in most of their games. Mutant Chronicles was the first game to introduce it, and then of course it's in Infinity, and it's in Conan, and it's in Star Trek as well. Now for Conan and Mutant Chronicles, they have a web-based character generator, and I'm hoping they'll do one for Infinity and Star Trek, because for a GM that does a lot of conventions, it's easy to whip up pre-gens. That way everybody can, because you get the player that wants to play the face. He's not a combat monster. He doesn't care about combat, or she doesn't care. She wants to play the negotiator. So I like to make 1 or 2 of those characters just to bring the conventions. Even if it's a pre-written scenario with pre-made characters, a lot of times they'll have basically combat combat-based characters, and they won't have the negotiator or whatever you want to call it, the face. So I like to make a couple of those, and so having the software available on the web to whip out those characters real quick is awesome. So hopefully they'll do that for Star Trek as well. And I thought I read on the forums that was the plan. So I'm really hoping. This game covers everything from the gamut of creating your character. There's even a quick generation as well as the detailed life path generations. You can do either or. What's cool is they allow you to take your talents, and I think you get either 5 or 6 talents, and you don't have, or focuses, you don't have to assign them right away. You can assign them as you're playing the game. So if you're a scientist type character and you really have no combat talents or focuses, you could actually assign a combat focus in the middle of the game because you might really well need it. And now that's part of your character, and I think that was really cool. That's a really neat design step because it breaks you out of that mode of, oh, I'm a dignitary, I have no combat, or I'm a combat monster and I have no negotiation skills. So it gives you a little bit, and the focuses and the talents aren't so powerful that they unbalance the game. So it's kind of nice that they do that. The other thing is they go through the equipment, which is very cool. You get quite a plethora of choices. They give you a nice section on technobabble, which is really cool. And then there's a large section on starships and battle, which I think is phenomenal because let's face it, that's what we all watch Star Trek for the most part, is to see those uber cool starship battles. And this gives you a way to play them out, which I think is really, really neat. So that's a lot of fun. So again, you can buy this off of Modiphius.com or drivethrough.com, drivethroughrpg.com. I think the PDF's $15, right at $15. I think it's €12.99 euro, which comes out to like 14. The euro's fluctuating right now, so it's a little bit cheaper. It's like $14.89, $14.90, something like that. It's just short of 15. But you might as well say $15 for a PDF copy. If you guys buy it and you print it off, let me know if yours printed. I know I've got bad eyes, but my eyes aren't that bad. But this is just, some of the sections are just really hard to read. Of course, when it's on the computer screen, it's fine because the colors are all vivid and everything. But I noticed when I printed it out, like some of the sections were just, they printed it in like a real light red, almost like a pink, and it just doesn't print well. And like I said, I printed on a black and white printer at work that duplexes. So I mean, it came out okay, and it's just not very convenient for me to play with it. I'll wait till the hardback book comes out. Like I said, it'll be out, I think, after summer, and it'll be worth it because I've had time to read this a little bit, and I'll read it some more, and then when I get my physical book, I'll really be jonesed to actually run a game, which I can't wait. So let's see, what are the other cool? You get a ship statistic sheet, which you can put all your ship stats for when you do ship combat, and then of course your character sheet, and it's all done in the LCARS format, which is really cool because if you have access to a color printer and you print it out, it looks really sharp. And of course they have a low ink toner version, a grayscale version, so you don't have to waste a ton of toner. That's what I printed mine out on, and it didn't come out as well. I was not as impressed. In fact, yeah, here's the Starfleet Personnel file. So you can see that's the character sheet right there. And I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's doable, but it's not super easy to read. So let's see. So of course they go over some of the major threats. You can play this in the Captain Kirk era, like I think the Stardate 2300s, or you can play it in the Dominion era of Star Trek and Deep Space Nine and what was it, Voyager era. So in this book they list your races are the Bajoran, the Andromedan, I think, the Trill, and the humans. I believe that's it. Yeah, let's see here. I got it right here. Oh, Tellarites. You can play a Tellarite. I just happened to flip open to the exact section. And they give you a full page write-up on each race. Basically, some of their suggested stuff, some different stat bonuses. Denobulin. So let's see here. We have Andorian, which, they were all the rage before Klingons came on the scene. We have Bajorans, Betazoid, Denoblian, Stock Human, Tellarite, and Trill, and last but not least, the ever so favorite Vulcan. So those are your playable races. So you can pretty much make anything you want. Remember, and everyone goes, what? No Klingon? Remember, Worf was the only one that was in the Federation, and he was raised by humans. And that's the only reason he was in the Federation. And remember, there was a whole story arc where he was pretty much shunned by his people in the Star Trek series. And I think it was in Deep Space Nine, because the show was failing really bad. So they brought Worf in to try and boost the ratings. I don't think it worked. But the space battles were phenomenal. There's one thing that show did get right. Then for our villains, we have the Klingons are actually in here because depending on what era you play in, the Klingons could be right at the beginning. The Khitomer Accord, which of course the Federation jumped in and chased off the Cardassians who were attacking a outpost of the Klingon outpost. So that opened up peace talks between the Klingons and the Federation. So you can play, like I said, in any of those genres, those time frames. But they are listed in this book as a not necessarily a rival, but not necessarily an ally, because it depends on when you're playing. If you're playing in the Captain Kirk era, I think it's Stardate 2339 or whatever, then the Klingons are not our allies, so it isn't until the Khitomer Accord, which is much later, that the Klingons, open up peace talks. But the Cardassians are the bad guys. The Borg obviously are in here, the Klingon, and I think that's it. Then of course they go into a bunch of alien races that are just basically NPCs and or monsters on planets. And then there's a whole section on ships. There is a beginning adventure in here to help you get started, which is really good. I have not read it because I typically don't run I don't run adventures out of a book typically. That being said, I have done it in the past. I've ran the Mutant Chronicles one. I ran the RPG Day Conan one, and it was awesome. So I do run them every once in a while when I have time to read them and fully delve into them, because you have to pay attention. But anyway, that's Star Trek: The Role Playing Game. It's phenomenal. I'd say it's a buy. I would say unless you have access to a color printer and you can waste a lot of toner, I would not print the PDF. I would just keep it on a tablet or your laptop, or if you're gaming in your house and you have a decent sized monitor or TV screen, you could throw it up on the TV screen and read it that way. That's what I do. I'd wait for the physical book. I think the production value is going to be amazing on it. If you guys have seen the Star Trek Cube, it's like $500, which comes with a whole bunch of stuff that Modiphius is offering. If you've got the disposable income and you can get that, go for it. I unfortunately am poor and cannot afford it. It's just out of my price range. They even reduced the price and took some, I think they took all the miniatures out, and they took one or two supplements out, and they dropped the price to like $329. And I thought, God, I would love to get that, but again, way out of my price range, so I couldn't do it. So anyway, there's some options out there. Go to Modiphius.com and you can see there's a couple different. There's a collector's edition cover. This did not go to Kickstart. They just released it on their own, and then the Borg Cube edition, like I said, comes with the special dice and the tokens and the miniatures and all the books. And the front cover of the box actually slides out, and it's the GM screen. Go check it out. It's super cool. And for every so many of those that they sell, they're adding more stuff. It's kind of weird how they're doing. You have to read the site, but it's almost like a mini Kickstarter, but it's only on their website. They're not putting it on Kickstarter or Baccarit or GoFundMe or anything like that. So it's really cool. But like I said, $15 for the PDF is not bad. And I'm glad I bought it. I'm enjoying what I've been reading of it, and I'm looking forward to running it for my Wednesday night group. Hopefully that will happen soon. And that's it, man. If you guys have any questions or concerns or whatever, hit me up. I really think it's going to be a phenomenal game. If you're a Star Trek fan or you just like space opera, I think Star Trek falls into that I don't want to say hard sci-fi, but it's definitely not sci-fantasy. It's obviously science fiction. Star Wars I would call science fantasy because of the Force and, stuff like that. But Star Trek is more science fiction, hard sci-fi. So if you like that, and you like that kind of stuff, it may be the game for you. If you haven't tried a 2D20 game system and you love Star Trek and you're not interested in Mutant Chronicles, or you don't particularly care for Conan and you don't know anything about Infinity, then this might be the one to pick up to get your feet wet. And the nice part is they're keeping this mechanic with all of their game lines so far. So once you learn how to play it, you pretty much know how to play all their other games. So if you have an inkling, you can always go online, buy the PDF copy of the book, and then see if you like it and go from there. I'm really into it. I dig the 2D20 system. I think they've done a fantabulous job of it, and the production quality is, of course, off the chart. I can't say enough good things about it. So it's definitely a buy in my book. And like I said, if you guys have any questions or concerns, let me know. But as always, peace and hair grease, and remember, be nice.